Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Dr. J, Supplement Santa. You realize that people are actually calling you Supplement Santa on Facebook now?
I know they are, man.
How funny is that?
You started that one, Carl.
I mean, it's hilarious. People just like, hey, Dr. J, got my box of goodies. Thank you, Supplement Santa.
Yeah, I love it, man.
It's funny.
Oh, boy. And I love that Thrive, too, man. I just got done having some. So thanks for that little intro so I could finish my glass here.
Yeah, I love this stuff. Hey, Dr. J, this topic today is something that all trainees can benefit from, because no matter who you are, people don't naturally get their calves and forearms to grow just from doing the traditional work that they think they need to do.
Correct.
This question actually came from, I'm sorry, I put my laptop down. This question actually came from, you know what, I'm going to have to read it during the next break because I'll find his name here. But anyway,
I've got it here. It's Matt from Detroit, Michigan.
Thank you. Thank you for saving me. And so,
not a problem. That's what I'm here for, you know?
All right. So Matt's saying, look, you know, what do you do for calves? You had huge calves. You had huge forearms. In fact, back in the day when you were a professional bodybuilder, wasn't there a ratio that your forearms and your calves were supposed to be almost the same size around?
Yeah, they were, and you know, my problem was every time I did forearms, my calves would grow.
You and Mike Metzer. Yeah,
okay. Exactly. I told you that earlier. Yeah, you know, and they're very stubborn body parts, so to say, for people, and even, you know, seasoned athletes. And what people fail to realize, think about it, you know, you are on your legs all day long, and those calves are getting a work. So you take your body weight times, you know, this is some physics, you know, some percentage of force, and you're talking about hundreds of pounds are pounding those calves every day. So if you go into the gym, like I see some of these guys that talk about they can't grow calves, and they put one plate on a calf machine, how's your calves going to grow with 45 pounds?
Great point. And this is exactly the same situation with your forearms too. These muscle groups are used to a lot of work. So how do you trip the scale?
Yeah. So, you know, let's talk about calves first, because I used to love training calves, and there are all types of exercises, but it isn't the exercise that's so important. It's the fact on how you do it, Carl. You know, you got to, first of all, you got to put some weight on there. Like I said, you know, your calves are getting bombed all day long. You got to load it up. You got to be intense. You got to think about the calf. Don't be bending your knees. So I always like to start with standing calf raises. Nowadays we have machines. Back in the old days, we call them donkey calf raises, where, you know, someone would have to sit on your back because there just wasn't enough weight. Get a couple guys actually. But standing calf raises, once you warm up those calves, load up the weight. I mean, get 400 or 500 pounds. I mean, whatever you can handle on your shoulders. Now, the key is your knees need to not bend. It's not a squat movement. And you've got to get a full range of motion, meaning that, you know, you've got to be on some type of a board or a platform that is above the ground, because you have to be able to come all the way down, bending your toes to get that full extension on that calf. And then you've got to go all the way up. You got to squeeze at the top. I mean, you got to be thinking about that calf muscle. Something called psychocybergenics. You know, you got to visualize what you want that to look like. Do you want it to look like a grape, or do you want a big old cantaloupe, or, you know, watermelon on there? But you gotta squeeze and be intense. And the other thing is, don't be afraid of reps. You gotta go till failure. You can't just do, you know, the normal 10 reps or something. I mean, you gotta do 25 35, but you got to have enough weight on there to really hammer them. So that's kind of the secret before we even get into talking about the different exercises.
So what about frequency of training calves? If calves are used to taking this unreal pounding day in and day out, just rudimentary normally, then should you be training your calves every single day if you want your calves to grow?
No, I think that's too much. I usually recommend if you do them right, 2 times a week is sufficient. I always did my calves only on leg day. I didn't do them any time else because again, if you're going to hit them properly, you got to give some time to rest. And yes, you're on your calves and you're working. I don't think you need to do it every day.
Okay, now do you want to continue to talk about how to train your calves, or you want to talk about the forearms before we go into training styles?
Let me give a couple other points on the calves here.
Okay.
So here's a little secret I learned a long time ago. I don't remember where I got it from, if it was Arnold or Lou or somebody. But when you're doing your calves, and again, I always do about 5 sets on the standing and then 5 sets on the seated. But you take your feet, and the first set, they will be parallel together. The next set, you will point your toes in. The third set, you will point your toes out, and then you'll just kind of rotate back and forth. And what you'll find is that will give you more emphasis on the inner calf and outer calves. So if you're looking for that big full calf, a lot of times, some guys will have a big inner calf because naturally, your feet typically want to go out. Mm-hmm. And you actually have to force them to go in to get that outside of that calf. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of my basic calf fundamentals for growing, and guaranteed they will grow if you put enough weight on them and you really work them and concentrate. Just don't make it an afterthought. Oh, I got to do some calves. Let me throw a plate on and go through the motions.
And the seated calf raise generally hits the soleus more than the gastroc, the standing calf raises. So that's why it's important, as you pointed out, to keep your knees locked out and don't break your knees. Don't bend your knees when you're doing standing, or you're turning it into a seated movement.
Absolutely. And don't put so much weight on there that you can only move an inch. When I'm talking about full range of motion, I mean like a ballerina. You are all the way up on your toes, and there is no more for your calf to. That's how you build a calf, not just moving 1 or 2 inches.
Okay. What other calf tricks can you give us?
Those are my secrets. If you do those, you will have huge calves guaranteed. I do have one other secret. I'll try to explain this. In between sets, let's say if you were on a standing calf machine, and typically there is a board that's above ground, you turn around and you put your heel on the back of that board, and you just kind of grab around behind you. And you now go down with your toe to the ground, and you come up and squeeze. This will help that swoop on the bottom of your calf. A lot of times guys have, they get to the bottom and their calves just flatten out. Well, this was something that helped me not only stretch my calves, but helped me to get that rounded swoops. I had a nice rounded, big old, like I said, big old cantaloupe sitting there.
So you actually put your heel on the board. You've got the weight on your shoulders. You put your heel on the board. Your feet. No weight.
Now you just turn around and you just reverse. Instead of having your toe going backwards, you now have your heel and your toe is going down the ground, and you're extending your toe back up.
Interesting. And does that also work the front compartment of the lower leg there? That front muscle that runs up along the shin bone?
I think so. It's just an interesting movement, and if you've never done it, which most people haven't, when I show somebody, they go, "My goodness, I can feel that more than anything." Yeah, you sure can.
Yeah. You know what I've discovered personally, and we've talked about this on the show a couple years ago, is that if you incorporate a static into this type of training that you're talking about, so let's say you do your sets, and the very, very last set, you get up into that top position and you hold that squeezed position until you fail. That actually will help stimulate growth too, because as you pointed out, you've got to give your calves something different than they're used to day in and day out. They're used to reps. What they're not used to is static holds. And if you start using the occasional static, you'll find your calves will respond to, and it is painful as heck.
Well, it is. And another thing, we didn't talk about pace. So, I'll do about 10 or 15, just like a normal pace, and then I will go fast.
Oh.
I mean, I will try to go and just shocking and then get to the end, like you said, and just hold it at the top until you can hold no longer.
Okay, now the forearms and the calves are very similar. Do you do this? Is it the same idea with the forearms as far as training them?
Yeah, the same concept is, again, you got to get a full range of motion, but this is where I think that is lost, because there are no forearm machines like there are calf machines. So people do not know how to do forearms. What I see everybody doing these days is what we used to call hammer curls, and they're really a bad form standing bicep curl. They turn their hand sideways, but they're rocking with their shoulders. They got their legs. You're not building forearms any more than you're building forearms just holding onto a dumbbell and keeping the hand straight.
Right.
So here's what you got to do if you want forearms. You've got a couple parts now. You've got the bottom and the top part, as they say. So to get that bottom, that big rounded forearm, like you see these guys, and like I used to have, you can either do it with a dumbbell or a barbell. So a dumbbell, you're going to get on 2 knees and you're going to put your wrist over the back of the bench. And you're going to put the dumbbell in your hand, again, as much as you can handle. You're going to lower it all the way down, and you're actually going to let it drop, your fingers drop a little bit, and then you're going to come all the way back up as much as possible and squeeze at both ends. So it's a really controlled motion, good stretch down, squeeze up, and 5 sets to failure.
How important is that portion of the movement that you just pointed out? I don't think anybody's ever talked about, but allowing the hand to slightly unwrap and then forcing the fingers to pull the dumbbell back into the palm as you start to raise it. That builds those grip muscles which make up the mass of the upper forearm, right?
Absolutely. I mean, again, you're gripping things and your forearms are working any type of upper body exercise. So again, you got to increase the range of motion. So by slightly letting your fingers drop, you are working muscles that you've never worked before. And again, you will grow. You can do the same thing with a barbell. The difference is now I would sit on a bench and I would let my wrists hang over my knees. It's a little tough sometimes with 2 hands and a barbell on a bench.
Right.
But I like to do them singular for that because, again, each arm needs to have its own concentration. Now, here's a little secret. That's usually where most people, if they've seen something, will stop. Now, you want to build the upper part of that forearm is you now reverse your hand over.
I was just going to ask you that.
Yep. Now, this one I like to use a barbell for because it's a little tricky with doing it with a dumbbell because your arm wants to raise off the bench. Now, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to go down. Palms are now down,
right.
And you're going to come all the way up. Now, I would like to superset these. I would do 1 set of reverse, and then I would do 1 set the opposite way. And again, squeezing at the top. I don't think I ever used more on that backside than maybe 50 pounds. Because that's a muscle that you normally aren't using, and this is the way that you can really concentrate. But again, it just gives you that big, thick, beautiful-looking forearm.
I want to go ahead and take a break, and when we come back, I want to ask you questions about using statics for forearms, too, as a finishing movement. We're talking with Dr. Jeff Galini. This is Science for Humans, and today we're discussing the science behind building huge, freaky calves and huge, freaky forearms. A lot of bodybuilders today don't have these 2 qualities. I don't think it's genetic. I think it's not training these body parts in a way that stimulates growth, and that's what we're talking about today. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains.
Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolin.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's getkarbolin.com/CARBGUIDE. The health and performance benefits of phytonutrients are indisputable, but getting all of your phytonutrients from your diet is difficult. That's why Prime Nutrition introduced PhytoForm. PhytoForm has nearly 11 grams of all the micronized veggies, fruits, fiber, minerals, and antioxidants you need. Alfalfa, organic spirulina, and chlorella, plus acai, pomegranate, goji, bilberry, blueberry, raspberry, cranberry, and papaya. Cabbage, spinach, broccoli, beet, the list goes on and on. You won't find a better, more complete fruits and greens blend anywhere. It even includes PQQ, which has been shown to improve mitochondrial biogenesis. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the Prime Nutrition banner ad today and use coupon code SHR to save 30% off. Prime Nutrition, the best or nothing.
From the makers of GLC 2000, now comes Actistatin Pro Athlete. The Actistatin formula gives you all 4 forms of glucosamine and chondroitin, plus Actistatin's triple patented delivery method to optimize cellular uptake and utilization of glucosamines, chondroitin, ascorbate, and manganese. Regenerate and maintain cartilage, promote joint mobility and flexibility, replenish lost collagen. Get 20% off your next order using the coupon code SHR. Go to superhumanradio.com and click the GLC banner ad today. Push the limits. Feel the difference with Actistatin.
MadeByHemp.com sells the highest quality products derived from industrial hemp, raw oils high in CBD, tinctures, and salves. You can also get fashionable apparel made from industrial hemp at MadeByHemp.com. CBD is a constituent of industrial hemp that has no psychoactive properties, but has been shown to provide a variety of health benefits. Go to MadeByHemp.com today and take a look at all of our amazing products. Use the coupon code SHR to save 25% off your entire order. MadeByHemp.com, your one-stop shop for all things hemp on the web.
Now, the #1 best-selling non-hormonal anabolic agent at PredatorNutrition.com. Progenadrex has established itself as the category killer. If you're having difficulty gaining muscle while staying lean, you owe it to yourself to try Progenadrex. 100% of store reviews rated it at 5 stars, the highest possible ranking. And today, right now, there are guys pouring their hearts out in the gym with little or nothing to show for it. Don't waste any more time. Go to PredatorNutrition.com today and get Progenadrex, the world's absolute best drug-free muscle gainer.
The category killer is back. Mass Pro Synthogen, with results literally from workout 1. You'll recover like you're a teenager again. If you've been pouring your heart out in the gym with little to nothing to show for it, you owe it to yourself to see the performance-enhancing and cosmetic effects it can make almost immediately. One user said, "I wish I could have tried it sooner. I just ordered 2 more bottles." And another, "The overall single best bodybuilding supplement I have personally ever used." Visit CoachRobRegish.com or PredatorNutrition.com to learn more today. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Superhuman Radio has the smartest and most dedicated health and fitness listeners found anywhere in the world. If you're trying to tap this market of greater than 50 million health fitness consumers, you simply can't do better than advertising on Superhuman Radio. Our sponsors tell us Superhuman Radio outperforms other forms of advertising time and time again. If you're tired of wasting valuable advertising dollars and need a new way to build your client base, go to superhumanradio.com and click on the Advertise With Us link. It just may be the best thing you have ever done for your business.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Welcome back to Science for Humans with my co-host, Dr. Jeff Galini, founder and scientific brain behind All American Pharmaceutical and the EFX product line. You can learn all about their products by going to superhumanradio.com and clicking one of the EFX banner ads today. Or go down to the bottom right-hand side and ask Dr. Jeff, who is affectionately known around Facebook as Supplement Santa, to send you some samples of stuff. And he'll send you the most amazing box of goodies. You won't believe it. You'll be like, oh, my God, I just asked for some samples. Most companies send you something in a number 10 envelope. I just got a box of stuff from Dr. Jeff. So check that out. Anyway, so one of the things that's made my forearms grow was when I started to do heavy deadlifts, I noticed that my forearms responded well, so I incorporated it in. Not necessarily farmer's walks, but I'll grab two 140-pound dumbbells and stand with them at my sides for as long as I can until my hands unwrap, and I'll drop them, and I'll do that again and again and again, and I get the most insane forearm pump, and there's no reps, nothing. I'm just holding on to those dumbbells. What do you think of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's like doing a deadlift. I mean, where you have to grip something for several seconds. Yeah, I mean, you got to shock it. You got to change it up. You don't do the same thing day in and day out. So any of that type of stuff, again, any time you're gripping something, you're working those muscles. So that's a great one.
So what do you, don't you think that your beginnings as a power lifter influenced your calves and your forearms to the degree where the average guy who comes into bodybuilding doesn't start out as a power lifter and he doesn't have the calf and forearm development? Do you think that being a power lifter kind of stimulates those two muscle groups because of you're handling such heavy weight, and as you point out, like in the deadlift, you're holding onto that bar for dear life. You're not thinking about your forearms, but man, they're getting a workout. And the same thing with squatting and deadlifting.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I was powerlifting, I never worked my forearms, and I always used an underhand, overhand grip.
Right.
But I worked my calves because, again, that's important part of squatting. Even to the point when I got into bodybuilding, I continued to do deadlifts. But what I found is when I started to train my forearms, my forearms were getting lopsided because I was using an underhand grip. Yeah. So I went to an all overhand grip so that them equally. So that just kind of shows you just from deadlifts incorporating some forearm movement, how they can grow. But yeah, I think, a lot of people, again, that get into bodybuilding and they want to do arms. How many guys do you see in the gym that have got some nice arms and then it just goes down? Yeah. They always wear sweatpants because they got no legs or calves.
Right.
But again, the physique should be, symmetrical. I mean, back in my days, it was all about symmetry, how you presented. It wasn't just, having big shoulders and arms and legs. You had to be symmetrical. So I think, again, it just adds to a pretty physique, finishing it off with calves. Nothing worse than, you seeing somebody with some nice legs and they just literally have some little chicken calves down there.
Yeah. It looks like a guy riding a chicken. That's what we always say. So, what about guys who use straps for everything? They have a back workout and they're using the straps on everything, machine movements, anything that they're doing pulling wise, they're using straps. Isn't that going to hurt forearm development?
A little bit. I mean, I always use straps when I trained, not when I powerlifted because, you couldn't use them, but when I got into bodybuilding and I was trying to hold on to things longer where powerlifting just dropped the bar. You weren't so concerned sometimes about form and some of your accessory exercises. But maybe that's why I had to actually do the forearm exercises where, maybe if I didn't use straps, I would get more of a forearm workout. But for me, it just helped me to handle more weight and to manage it in a more controlled manner.
When I started to really care about what my forearms looked like, I actually stopped using straps completely, which meant that I had to actually back down a little bit on the weight I was using and let my forearms catch up to my back strength. Now I haven't used straps in a long, long time, and I'll only use them on the rare occasion if I'm going to go ahead and deadlift, and I feel like just the psychology of having those straps makes me a little more confident to focus on the actual execution and form of the movement. But other than that, I have avoided using straps at all costs because I can't help but think that if your forearms gas out before your back does in a rowing movement, then you have a goal. You have a new goal to make your forearms as strong as your back, and that's going to cause them to get bigger.
Well, exactly. And, there is even workouts when, again, as a bodybuilder, you look in the mirror and you go, oh, man, I need to work a little harder. So I would do my forearms first. And, most people would go, oh, no, then, I'm not going to have a good bicep. Well, why not? I mean, it doesn't really matter what part you first, the first part is where you're going to be the freshest. So if you're weak in something, you should train that part first.
Well, and you're exactly right. And I'll tell you something that's funny. So back in the day, we used to think that if you pre-exhausted your pre-exhausted your triceps before doing bench presses, that it would force your pecs to work harder, and the result would be greater pec development. What we learned was it was exactly the opposite. Your triceps got bigger because you were doing a higher volume of work and forcing them to work harder. So if you want your forearms to grow, pre-exhaust them before you do a movement that requires you to hold on.
Yeah, absolutely. Then you're going to put more emphasis on that muscle. I remember even riding the bike 5 miles to the gym or running and then doing squats.
Right.
I mean, it's all mental. You just have to understand, again, if bodybuilder, you got weak parts, you'd better do those first and you'd better really concentrate on it. The problem is most people like to show off and do the parts that they're strong in.
Right.
And then they get all excited,
Yeah, it is funny. Everybody wants to do what they look the best doing and what they feel the strongest doing. So that's why I used to say the movements you're avoiding the most, those are the ones that you should be doing. There's a reason you're avoiding them.
Yeah, exactly. And don't hide those weak parts. If you got weak calves, then, wear shorts.
Yeah, that'll force you to train them.
Yeah, don't wear long sleeves. I mean, again, if you can see those, you'll be able to see what's growing. You got to be able to look at yourself while you're training. That's why there's mirrors up, to be able to see what you're doing.
If you have a weak body part and you don't like it, don't hide it. Keep it out there and keep reminding yourself to train harder next time you're in the gym to overcome that weakness. Dr. J, great information here. I expect everybody in the audience to have bigger calves and bigger forearms as a result of this show.
That's right. And remember, follow me on Dr. Jeff Golini, and you can always go to superhumanradio.com. Ask the scientists. Love answering your questions.
Yes, so please send in questions, like you see here from Matt from Detroit, right? Was that where he's from? Or Michigan, I want to say.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Matt got his questions answered, and you can get your question answered too. All right, Dr. J, thanks a lot, brother.
All right, take care.